Welcome to Adam Does Movies Live. It's Tuesday. The weekend's behind us. I had a really good one, actually. Thanks for asking. I had my buddy Derek come up from Minnesota. He hung out with me in South Carolina. I got a lay of the land, showed him around. Just a nice weekend. We ended up going to a movie last second, a new Coen brother film. What was the name of that? I wrote it down so I would remember. Oh yeah, Drive Away Dolls. What a gem. It may honestly have been worse to sit through than Madam Web, because at least Madam Web was fun to make fun of, whereas I found Drive Away Dolls to just be atrocious. I have a review I posted, I think, yesterday on the channel. So did the stream just break? Did something break all of a sudden? What just happened? Okay, I'm using my iPhone 15. It has this cool new feature where you can use it as a camera on the computer. It does the blur effect and everything. I don't know if that's what just happened. Dear gods, I hope it doesn't happen again. If it does, we're gonna, it's just shot out of a cannon today. All right, I'm not gonna get into any more preamble since now I'm scared out of my mind. I'm gonna bring on my buddy here. I met him at MegaCon with Sean Chandler, Cody Leach. They invited me up there, and I met a few awesome people, one of which was Chris from Film Stocked. Christopher, can I call you that for this one time? How are you?
You can do it. How's it going, man? Good to be on here. We did meet at MegaCon. We had a nice rapport, and it's good to be back together. On screen together this time.
What just happened when I left? Did the stream continue to function without me?
It just went to a blue screen. I couldn't hear anything for like 20 seconds.
Okay.
And the banner was there. There was just no one on screen.
Yeah,
so
I just completely I ghosted out. That's crazy. Okay. Well, we're here for now, and if I leave again, Chris will just awkwardly be running things for the time being.
Hey, that's happened a few times on my stream. Every time I have a guest on, I get booted out and they're just running the stream for a minute. So I can take the reins if I need to.
Interesting. That's the first time it's ever happened out of dozens and dozens of streams, but whatever. Sean heard his name. He's in the chat. They see. Typically, I don't address what I consider the kind of underlings on the chat unless it's a super chat, because that's the name of the game on these live streams. Super chats are the lifeblood of the channel. They were in 2023. I'm imagining they're going to be in 2024. But the topic of today is Rotten Tomatoes. You may be familiar with it, Chris. I think that was your suggestion, actually, was we talk about this whole fiasco going on.
Yeah, I have a lot of words. It mainly stems from just social media response to early Rotten Tomatoes scores and how people who haven't seen the movie yet, like general audiences, immediately align with one point of view. Like, for example, with Madam Web or Dune, two vastly different reactions, but people are like, oh, gonna be the best movie ever. Oh, gonna be the worst movie ever. But no one's actually seen it. It's just based on the tomato meter score, and it drives me crazy.
Well, let's get to that. I have a couple of notes, a couple of things that can kind of lead us on a journey through Rotten Tomatoes, a website and an app, I imagine, that launched back in August 12th of 1998. Chris, I don't even know you were.
I
you were
was not
probably-
on the planet yet.
You weren't even born yet in 1998.
No.
That's amazing. Wow. Thanks for making me feel a lot of things right
Yeah.
now. None of them are
I tend to
good.
do that when I'm on these streams with some of you guys.
Rotten Tomatoes, did they come out like 3 years ago? No, it's been around for a while. So Rotten Tomatoes, let's just do a real quick. I imagine everybody watching this knows what it is. A website, it's an aggregate, it's a positive, negative score on a film. So a new movie comes out, it has a pool of critics, certified critics by a council of who the hell knows over there. Chris, are you a certified critic on Rotten Tomatoes?
I am not.
You're too young. You're
Yeah.
too young. Guys like me that have been, grinding it out. They finally said, Adam, fine, you can come in this. We have like literally no one left to pick from, so you can come in. So I got in, I think, a year or two back, and I throw my 2 cents into the ring once in a while. But how it essentially works is a movie comes out, you either go on to Rotten Tomatoes and give it a fresh or a rotten. Those are your only 2 options. Even though I would say 9 times out of 10, when I go to a movie, I'm in the middle somewhere around like a 60% feeling on it. It's usually like a C. It's never an A plus or an F, but that's how Rotten Tomatoes treats things. So if I put a movie as fresh, but I thought it was maybe just better than it was worse, Rotten Tomatoes just puts that in the pool of the good ones and says, okay, overall, this movie is at 80% fresh. And that gives people a kind of bad impression of how things are actually playing out. Because if Dune 2 comes out, for instance, and it's sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, people are going to say, oh my God, it must be the greatest film of all time. It's at 100%. But that just means people in the critic pool liked it more than they didn't, so they're pushing it positive. A B is still in that 100% category.
No, yeah, exactly.
I think I covered it. Do you have anything to add to that, Chris? Or
I think it's interesting bouncing off that how a lot of people will see 87% of Rotten Tomatoes and be like, oh, that means that its average score is like an 87 out of 100. Like that is the movie is like an 8.7 out of 10.
That's what it's scored on
really,
a test.
Yeah. And so I still don't think that everyone fully understands it, but regardless, I don't understand why it has so much power. Like the day that the tomato meter reveal happens for a movie on Instagram is like the make or break day for a lot of people, whether they're even going to see a movie or not. And I get taking early critic reviews into account, but I don't know how it became this like end all be all for moviegoers.
So, okay, what's your relationship with Rotten Tomatoes? Did you you grew up with it, obviously. Mm-hmm. You've been a film fan, I imagine. I kind of jumped in. I apologize. I jumped in without really introducing you properly. I said, I met you at MegaCon and that's it. But for my audience that doesn't know Chris, he has a YouTube channel called Film Stocked, covers new movies, some older movies, does reviews, but his big thing is Stranger Things. Why don't you just give us like a 30-second spiel about what they can expect on the channel and why they should get you to 100,000 subscribers, because you're like right there.
This is true. I'm like 350 subscribers away. Oof. So if you're not subscribed, consider. I'm at the final countdown. But yeah, I started my channel in 2019, movie reviews, TV reviews, what everyone does in this space essentially. And then summer of 2022, when Stranger Things season 4 came out, I covered that show and really got a spark with my channel. And so it's become sort of a mainstay of my channel. It's like a main pocket. I still do movie reviews, tier lists, all that stuff. But Stranger Things has definitely been the meat of my channel, I'd say, over the past year and a half. So that's what you can expect. If you like Stranger Things, you can find me at Film Stocked. But movies and TVs, I give my 2 cents on those as well.
What's your favorite season of Stranger Things?
Season 4, the most recent one.
Yep. Well, then, I mean, you lost all credibility already. So, guys, don't bother subscribing.
Don't even bother. Yeah.
No, I'm joking. All right, yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm. Okay, I assume super pumped for the final half.
Oh yeah. Okay. Over the moon excited. Like that's become my most anticipated media ever. Like it's Force Awakens level for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that this year? Does it come out?
next year, likely. Yeah, they're filming it right now, which I know is a bummer, but I think it'll be
COVID,
worth
I
the wait.
imagine, hurt it a little
Yeah,
bit, maybe.
and then the
Okay.
strikes too. That kind of
Oh,
set it
that's
back.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was big. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, 2025, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
All right.
2025's big
So,
slate, but
so back to the actual conversation, since I took us on a journey completely south. You grew up with movies. You love movies. Did you go to Rotten Tomatoes when you were younger or today? Do you look at it for any sort of value?
I'm always just curious to see. But honestly, if I don't get the chance to see a movie early that I'm really excited for, I'll try and avoid the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Hmm.
Growing up, though, I mean, in when I was in high school, 2014, 15, 16, like Rotten Tomatoes was still the talk of the town then, but it didn't
Okay.
have as much weight. I actually would go to certain movie reviewers and get their 2 cents, like a Chris Stuckman or a Jeremy
Sure.
Jahns, like
Sure.
one of those
Right.
types of guys back then. But no, Rotten Tomatoes has always been prevalent. There was also this other app. I forget the name of it. It started with an F.
Flickster.
Flixster. That's what it was. And it had like the
Yeah,
popcorn bucket. Do you remember
that's
that?
Ron. That's Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it was so weird. I don't know if it was always that way, but at some point they went with a mobile app, and the mobile version of Rotten Tomatoes was Flickster.
Well, then I used to be on Rotten Tomatoes all the time. How about that? That was the app that I loved to
It
scroll
was
through.
really
That's crazy.
confusing. I don't know if Flickster was like a separate thing, and Rotten Tomatoes came in and bought it, and they didn't want to like go through the whole rebrand or and people can Google works, but yeah, Flickster, Rotten Tomatoes, the same thing.
Okay, yeah, that
I
makes sense.
yeah, I mean, kind of in the same boat as you, but mainly because Rotten Tomatoes wasn't a thing for me until I want to say late middle school, early high school, somewhere along the lines. It kind of started becoming a thing. And I would check it once in a while, and I really enjoyed it because there was not a lot of critics on Rotten Tomatoes. You had maybe a couple dozen. And so their weight was pretty heavy. You know, these were like the top dogs, the Ropers and the Roger, Moores and the Eberts. These guys, these were respected film critics, not me on Rotten Tomatoes at the time. Okay. And so yeah, and I would say I lined up with Rotten Tomatoes probably 90% of the time. I was kind of a snotty asshole too. The only times I never agreed were comedies. It always, and it's still that way. I think I feel like Rotten Tomatoes and comedies just do not mix at all. I don't know if it's just because it's so subjective or if there's that level of kind of like uppityness with critics, and they don't want to admit if a movie's funny, so that means it's good or whatever. I don't know.
The same thing kind of applies to the horror genre, I've noticed as well. And
Yes.
that ties into the whole like Academy Awards thing. I don't know if we want to get into that, but the way they vote for certain movies, like the horror and comedies, are usually left out of the conversation. But it's
Yeah.
kind of because those movies are almost below them in a sense.
It
That's why
seems
I've
like,
always viewed it.
yeah, I agree. Horror often gets snubbed. I think superhero movies got snubbed for a long time. Comedies definitely get snubbed.
Yeah.
Dark Knight, I think, was one of the very few that was even in the conversation. But yeah, it's far and few. What I think, to your point earlier when you said it seems more prevalent in the last couple of years that Rotten Tomatoes is gaining some power on social media, is because social media has gained so much more power in the last couple of years. And this has given rise to the infamous influencer, the person that's not actually a critic, not actually specialized in movie knowledge or anything. They're just a person that is often paid to like be part of a fandom. They'll go to events, they'll get wined and dined, and they build a brand. Basically, they don't even need to get paid for it, but they build a brand essentially around being a sycophant, or they're a bot. I've noticed a lot of that, and we can get to that in a sec. But there's legitimate bots that are created, fake accounts that will do nothing but for months be propagating this like bullshit about excitement about a film coming out. Have you
No,
noticed
yeah.
that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that you'll come across on social media where I've seen your videos and different rants about it where they'll preface the reviews with kind words essentially,
Right.
and
Right.
basically walk on eggshells when they're talking about the movie. That there has been a rise in that, but I think of all the social medias, TikTok is the one that's really blown up, and that's where that sort of influencer section has grown out because I it's a weird fine line for me, like, because I do have TikTok, I have, you know, Instagram, YouTube, and
Mhm.
I make content, I have an audience, and so it's like I talk about movies and TV shows, but I don't view myself as some of the, like, other influencer people who are out there just to try and get, like, famous off of it, you know what I'm
Right,
saying? And
right.
so I've also had interactions with people who I know are in it for the wrong reasons,
Mhm.
and that's disheartening.
Name
So
all of them right now.
name drop 'em. Yeah.
Let me tell you about everyone I know and why they suck at this.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so one of the more egregious ones that came up was Blue Beetle. I remember a bunch of accounts on the artist formerly known as Twitter X. They would be coming out of nowhere and they'd be like, Blue Beetle's gonna be the greatest superhero movie. You know, you haven't seen anything like Blue Beetle before. It's got, you know, representation of this culture, and they really play into these kind of like same-ish conversational points. I feel like they were given like a box to check mark what things they need to, you know, throw out there. And because I hate myself and have, I guess, all the time in the world, I would kind of deep dive into these tweets, these characters that were coming out, because oftentimes Blue Beetle would be their icon image,
Mhm.
and it would be somewhere in the name, like Blue Beetle fan 29.
Yeah.
And I would go to the account and it would only have a few months worth of tweets, and they're almost all related to Blue Beetle. So I don't know what's going on there. If there's a
The Blue
consulting,
Beetle Battalion is what they were calling
is that what
themselves.
it is? The Blue
I saw a
Beetle
trend, the
Battalion?
movement, the Blue Beetle Battalion, I wanna say, yeah.
Right. And do you believe for a second that was a real movement, or do you think that that was some bullshit
Oh.
marketing thing that,
Absolutely
yeah,
absurd. No,
yeah.
because I'm in the I thought I was in the minority when I said this, but I didn't really care for that movie at all.
No, I didn't.
But people were trying to call me crazy when I dropped my early review of it, and I was like, "What? It's not adding up here." But that's
No,
just me.
it was really lame. It was an incredibly mediocre film. But yeah, I'm in the same boat. We're not part of the
Yeah.
battalion. I can tell you that much right now. The same thing happened just recently with Madam Web before the movie hit. These sad Madam Web stan accounts were coming out, and it was just months of Madam Web. And I straight up called someone out on it, which I usually don't do because I don't care. It's all fake nonsense. But I like retweeted something the guy said about how, you know, people are sleeping on Madam Web. The acting's amazing. The effects are top notch. Like everything that was completely bullshit. I'm like, yes, we should definitely listen to Madam Web, true, you know, fan 2929. This is definitely an unbiased, real account. And the guy responded back, or girl, or whatever it is, with just a bunch of laughing smiley faces. And that was the end of that conversation.
Alrighty then.
Yeah,
That's kind of the response I would have to
that's
that.
because if you know you're shamelessly doing something for all the wrong reasons, all you can do is kind of laugh at it and grab your check or whatever it is that you do for whatever reason you do it. Okay, let's see. I actually have a fun story, but do you have anything else you want to add to this little topic about social media and how they're using Rotten Tomatoes?
It's less so about that. It's kind of just in the whole scope of reviews and early reviews. Um, when you obviously have seen films early, I've seen films early for review purposes, and whenever you drop a review, it's funny just how people will tell you you're wrong when they haven't seen the movie. You're wrong. Here's why it's great. Um, it's like I'm one of the few people in the world who doesn't think Dune Part 2 is the greatest thing since sliced bread or the Second Coming of Christ. I like the movie. I think it's very
I haven't
solid.
seen it, so I
No,
don't even
fair,
know.
fair. I'm very much in the minority. I enjoyed the movie overall, but I
Mhm.
honestly, you know, voiced some critiques I had, and people are just it's funny how people are just so quick to try and judge someone's character just because of their opinion on a movie.
And the best
Um,
part is a lot of them haven't even seen the movie. Most
yeah,
of them probably haven't seen it, and they're just like, "How dare you? You're wrong.
exactly. And then
I
they're
haven't
like,
seen
"You're
it,
just an
but you're
idiot.
wrong." Yeah, right.
Read, you know, you don't know enough about the lore. Study." It's like all these different things. I and it just
That's
drives
been
me
the big
crazy.
one. The last few years, I've heard lore more in 2 years than I heard my entire existence growing up. You don't understand the lore of Sonic the Hedgehog. Did you hear what you just said? That's just sad.
Truly is. And yeah, that's something that frustrates me, and I think it sort of coincides with Rotten Tomatoes culture. Well, the Rotten Tomatoes score is 97%, so you're a moron for not absolutely praising the movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's kind of the case. And if a movie's rotten and you're more on the positive side, you're an idiot as well. So there's just no winning. You can't please everybody. I don't do this to please people though, and that's the thing. I'm always like, I got to be honest in this review And it hurts me to say this because I wanted to love this movie, but here's why. And it's all you can do.
Yeah, I think people that go to movies, I mean, at least people that are self-described movie fans and movie critics or just movie lovers in general, don't typically like forking over hard-earned money to go to a movie to hate it. I mean, once in a while, you'll get that inclination. Like going to Madam Web, I was pretty confident it was going to be hot trash and I would have fun destroying the film if it in fact turned out that way. But there's always that part of you that's like, all right, I'm putting down $15 or whatever it is at your theater. I really don't want to sit there for 2 hours and be miserable. I'd rather this movie actually impresses me and wows me. So then to go put an honest review out there and have a bunch of unknown people go, you're wrong, you're lying, you're doing it for clicks or views or whatever. Well, I can give you a real world example, Chris. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a film called Godzilla Minus One.
I am. I think I might have heard. I think I just want to hear what you have to say about this.
Cinematic masterpiece. I imagine you thought it was the greatest thing ever, like a lot of other people did that hadn't seen it at the time.
Thoroughly enjoyed the film, but I'm ready to hear what you have to say.
Well, I thoroughly did it, Chris. So
we have to end the stream right now. How can we have a conversation?
Okay, Stranger Things. He's wrong. I'm wrong. This is a terrible relationship already. I never get early access to movies. I'm in the middle of Nowheresville, South Carolina. I have one Regal theater that sucks, and it's 25 minutes from me. It's not a good situation out here. I don't know why I moved here to begin with. But my buddy Matt met me at the Regal. There was a sneak showing of Godzilla Minus One, a special showing a week before the movie hits mainstream audiences. So I'm like, hey, let's go to the movie. It actually looks really freaking good. I'm not a big Godzilla fan. I've seen all the American ones, haven't been really impressed by them. I've seen some of the old ones. I found them to be just too old and schlocky and whatever. It's a giant lizard blowing stuff up. Cool, great. But this movie genuinely looked fantastic. It looked like it took what the American Godzilla was doing visually and it maybe married it with a good story and some compelling characters. And for a lot of people, that's exactly what it did. For me, not so much. I went with Matt. We were bored out of our minds. We found the characters acting to be very hammy and over the top, like an anime. Nothing really stuck as far as the emotion because it was so over the top. And I found all the Godzilla stuff to be super lame and kind of cheesy looking. But again, I know that that's what people love about it. I didn't. So I left the theater for some reason, kind of thinking that people agree with me all the time. so I approached the review just shot out of a cannon. I'm like, I hated this movie. I have all these reasons why. And I was destroyed. I put my review on Rotten Tomatoes, and even the Rotten Tomatoes snippet, you get like 2 sentences or a sentence. I said, visually stunning. I gave like a couple pros and cons in that, because it's not a terrible film. I didn't have fun with it. And I gave a negative score. Well, at the time, it only had 8 or 9 scores total on there, and I was the first Rotten score. Big deal, right? These movies get hundreds of scores. Well, apparently it was the biggest fucking deal in the world, because that score would remain there for days, maybe even a week, just eating at Godzilla fans, which news to me, there's a freaking million of them, like a lot of them, and they're very, very vocal. So yeah, I was needless to say, put in my place pretty soon after that review went out. I had thousands of tweets and retweets and hate comments. Someone actually sent me photos of their literal shit that they took in the toilet, put it across all my Instagrams, obviously tons of threats, telling me to take down my score. I ruined the precious 100% score on Rotten Tomatoes. How dare you? They're going to contact Rotten Tomatoes, get my critic license pulled. Like that's a thing that exists. I picture Seinfeld, and he gets the postal badge ripped off of his jacket because he's no longer able to do the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a 48-hour whirlwind that honestly, it went from amusing to like, wow, this is wild, to kind of freaking depressing. where you're just constantly told over and over again, you suck, you're awful, you're an idiot, kill yourself, blah, 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 blah. It just weighs on you. Even if you have a thicker skin, it can kind of be like, oh, let's refresh the page and see, just an endless stream of hate. What the takeaway is there, though, Godzilla or Rotten Tomatoes has so much power for some of these social media channels. There was 8 reviews. Did they really think it was going to stay at 100% forever? There's always going to be people that don't like something. I don't know. Is it possible there's maybe 20 movies on Rotten Tomatoes that have 100%? Maybe more.
I think Paddington 2 is one of them, and I haven't seen that.
And it probably doesn't have thousands of reviews, it probably has a couple hundred. The more you get, the more likely it is to drop. That's how the game's played. But yeah, to have less than 10 reviews and people lose their shit is just comical. And that's never pointed out once during this whole fiasco. There's only 7 or 8 reviews. It's just, this guy ruined it.
No, yeah, and people put so much value on the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Yeah.
It's almost like why can't these people just go watch the movie for themselves and form their own opinion? I've seen, on Twitter, people talk, or X, I should say.
No, you're fine.
People talk about how, I only care about high ratings when it validates me or when it is for something I like. When Dune Part 2 has a 4.5 on Letterboxd average rating and this star rating on IMDb and this Rotten Tomato score, I only care about that because it helps me out because I love the movie. It's like, I don't know why we put value on these numbers. People just go see the movie and form your opinion.
It's these
I just don't
sycophantic
understand. It's
fan
starting to
bases.
sicken me, actually.
Again, it kind of goes back to just the influencer mindset and the sycophantic cults that people have formed online, where they've basically made their entire presence on the internet. I'm a Godzilla dude. Don't screw with me or my crew, or we're going to come after you. And that's exactly what they did. They had these giant mobs of fans from these YouTube channels. Other ones go, we're going after Adam now. This is the guy for the next couple days, and then we'll move on to the next person that we're going to target. It's pathetic and embarrassing and all the things that you can think of all at once. And again, because of why? Because I gave like a really lukewarm criticism on Rotten Tomatoes of a film they liked, but hadn't seen.
That's the kicker right there.
Yeah.
They hadn't seen it and had no real opinion to form. They were just getting mad because of their sort of preconceived notions and built up hype for a movie they hadn't seen. And that's what irritates me the most, more than anything right now. With Dune is because I'm very much in the minority. I liked it, but I had some issues. And so I talk about that in my review, and people just attack you, even though you're overall positive on something. You just don't come out praising it.
Right.
And then I see this as well. I think there's like this herd mentality or sheep mentality where that Rotten Tomato score drops and hundreds of people automatically create their opinion in that moment. They see a 97%, they go, no way, this movie's gonna be bad. And they go in, they hype themselves up. It's gonna be the greatest thing ever. They watch it. Same thing on the opposite end of the spectrum with Madam Web. I think that movie stinks, right? And we all have our reasons for why, but it comes out with the 20-something%, and people are more inclined now to go in and crap on it and point out things that might not be as bad as they were. And I just hate that. And I wish that we could get rid of Rotten Tomatoes, like in a way, like just the culture surrounding it. Not Rotten Tomatoes. I think it is a useful tool at times, but I don't like the culture surrounding Rotten Tomatoes is what I'm trying to say.
Well, it should almost be a requirement that the score isn't even released until it hits a threshold. Releasing a Rotten Tomatoes score with 5 reviews, it seems almost it is disingenuous, because then what happens, and I've seen this, I'm sure you've seen it, the studio then splats that on their video, their image for the day. Madam Web's at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes. There's 1 score in so far. And studios will intentionally play this game where they will only invite people that are in their little pocket of reviewers they know are going to be positive to a film like this. So they're gonna have an early screener that goes out to A, B, and C, and they're purposely going to avoid D, E, and whatever comes after in the alphabet. I forgot because I'm illiterate. But those people are going to give it a fresh review, and then bam, they can put 100% on their video that they probably already had created ahead of time because they knew where this was going to go. They don't tell you there's 8 reviews on there. They just say 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
You've probably had this happen. I've had it happen where you take pause for a second when something's doing so well, because then you're like, oh shit, am I really going to be the guy that's like, you know what, I didn't really like this movie. Can you think of anything recently, or has it happened to you where you see a score that's really high and you completely disagreed and put out a review that was the contrary?
I mean, it's seemingly Dune Part 2. Like I'm
Okay.
one of the few people I know. I saw the movie with Cody Leach, who was also at MegaCon, and
Mhm.
he also was positive on the film. But me and him were discussing like some things we wish went differently. And then we go on social media that night and see the copy paste tweets, masterpiece, greatest thing ever. Which we could get into that later. The whole Twitter people feuding, trying to create a 4-line, just grab your attention, praise.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
The hyperbole of it's the
Yes,
cinema, it's
yes,
the tour de force, it's a
yes,
masterpiece, it's the
yes.
greatest film ever created ever. Yeah.
It's
I actually read the Dune because I wasn't special like you or Cody to see the film ahead of time. I'm joking. I did a live stream last week where I read the early reactions to Dune 2, and it was almost just color in the book. Masterpiece. It's the greatest film ever. It's he's created his swan song, tour de force. It's just so boring when they all
I'm
say the
numb to
same
that
thing.
at this point, and I
Yeah,
know that
yeah.
a lot of people do agree with those sentiments about Dune, but eh, every big movie that comes out, I adore Oppenheimer. It's my favorite last year, but those same tweets were being said about Oppenheimer. They're being said about The Flash being the greatest superhero film since The Dark Knight, maybe better than The Dark Knight. The best DC film in ages. All these things, and I don't understand why everything has to be the best blank, the
Well, yeah,
best
I mean,
sci-fi movie, the
especially in
best
regard to
superhero movie.
Oppenheimer, when Christopher Nolan's got Inception, Interstellar, and Prestige sitting over there, which I
Yeah.
would say are far better films than Oppenheimer, but to each their own.
No, yeah, for sure. So I don't get why everything just has to be the best. And I think it all circles back to the social media hype train, which kind of is rooted in Spider-Man No Way Home in a way, in my opinion.
Well, that brings up not a pivot, but kind of like a side conversation with this whole thing where critics or channels, outlets, bloggers, whatever, they want their snippet to be somewhere prominently featured. And they know the best way to do that is to give this larger than life exclamation about a film. This was the greatest thing since my child's birth, and they know that pull quote might be used in a trailer, it might be used on the box art, it might be used anywhere that can bring a little bit of attention to that person. Or it'll just give them a little bit of I guess notice on social media, like, look what this guy said. It's wild.
Yeah, maybe
Check
gain
him
some
out.
followers, get retweeted by someone who worked on the movie.
Hmm.
I honestly don't really tweet much. I go see movies and I just don't really tweet about it. I rarely tweet. I use Twitter as like a news source more than anything to like see what's going on in the world of behind the scenes casting for movies and stuff like that. But
Right.
I just don't put my initial thoughts out there on Twitter because people could interpret it 100 different ways and it could end up here or there. And I just don't, I want to like marinate a little bit more, or at least just make a quick out of theater video talking it out where I can have some emotion behind it as opposed to
Hmm.
just blank words on a screen.
Yeah. I think the biggest one that hit me a couple years back was, and we brought this up at MegaCon at one point or another, Barbarian. Did you ever see Barbarian?
I did not. I didn't see that one.
Well,
I'm familiar with what it is though.
according to the internet, it's one of the greatest horror films ever created. To be fair, I know people, Cody, for instance, really loved Barbenheimer.
Barbenheimer, yes, bring it back.
Yeah, subscribe for Barbenheimer. Really loved Barbarian, and I fucking hated that film. But the reviews coming out of whatever thing it was at, it was some sort of festival that people attended, and that was the movie everyone was raving about. Barbarian's the movie to see, folks. It's amazing. It throws you for loops. It looks fantastic. New director. It's the greatest thing. And I was pumped. I heard that. I fell for it. I went with my buddy Bless. I went with my wife, who never goes out to the theater because it's miserable for her now. And we hated this experience. We were so pissed watching this movie. And we did like double taked with each other. This is the movie they're talking about. This is the movie everyone's praising. And so I put out a review. I was pissed. I was mad. And lo and behold, thousands, tens of thousands of people came over to the video. No, not in the way you think. People that watched Barbarian and were in the same boat as me.
Okay, I
And
was
they
about to
said,
laugh because I was like, "You're
no,
the
no, no.
Godzilla minus one, and
no,
now this."
no. Only 2 times have I been really
Okay.
attacked on social media or on YouTube. One was Godzilla minus one, and the other was the Sound of Freedom. That was a whole other
Oh, man.
amazing set of people. No, there was a lot of people that felt the same way I did, but they could not find anyone who was upset with this movie online at the time because either A, they didn't want to put out a negative review of a film that's apparently being heralded as the greatest horror film in the 21st century, or B, they just kept their mouth shut or agreed and thought it was really good, or they're just getting in line. I don't know. I don't care. I just try to put out honest reviews at the end of the day and try to avoid the noise, but it seeps into everything. To your point, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, like as many positive comments as you get, or oh, I love the honesty here. I can tell you're being genuine. I agree. I disagree respectfully. Those comments are all sweet, but then it is like no matter how hard you try, you see the one where it's like screw you, you moron, and it's like you said earlier, no matter how thick, how tough you are, like it can just mess with you ever so slightly, even if you don't intend for it to. And that's why I've tried to recently just post when I do movie reviews specifically, post them and just don't even read the comments, which I hate to do because I like to have the communal aspect. But if I know I'm controversial, I'm like, let's just see what happens. Come back a month later and look at the comments.
It's hard not to. I go back and forth on it. Sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm just going to walk away from the comments, let it turn into a dumpster fire, whatever. Lately, I've been engaged with it. I just try to avoid responding to the negative comments. Just let them sit, let them be, because 90% of the time they're not going to, see the light or agree with you or whatever.
Yep.
And that's fine, whatever. Let them air their grievance and be done with it. I figure if I air mine, they should be able to air theirs. The difference is I don't like name call the director or tell the actors in the film to die. That might be the subtleties between the two types of criticism going on. Have you had any reviews, any movies that stand out as the one that you got hit the hardest with?
I would say it was a rabid fan base. It was Transformers: Rise of the Beast. I think something must have happened where like Transformers accounts came after me because I hated that movie.
Yeah,
I really trashed it. I did. I just trashed it. And so people were like, you're the same things, threats, screw you. Well, you like this, so how can we take you seriously? All these things. I just like stopped reading the comments after a while, but it was one of those early screenings where it was like the press section and then general audiences, people who get to go for free, and people were like screaming at the top of their lungs in the movie. And I was just like, I was looking around. I was like,
Bumblebee!
This is clearly not for me. People were on their feet clapping.
Shia LaBeouf's there yelling at Bumblebee.
And so I was just like, oh man. And I walked out and they're like, what'd you think? And I was like, I hated it. And then I went and posted my review. But people came for my head for that one. And I still get people in my live streams being like, Transformers all summer. Transformers: Rise of the Beast is amazing. You're wrong. And I see in the chat someone too. Transformers cult roll out. It's true. There's a cult. There's a cult surrounding them. I swear.
Still haven't forgiven you for what you did to Transformers: Rise of the Beast.
Oh man,
stupid movie. I agree with you. I saw it too, and I was like, well, what are we doing anymore? Where does this movie take place? Even at one point, it was supposed to be a sequel to Bumblebee and a prequel to the Michael Bay movies, and then it kind of like turned into something else. And
you didn't like the Anthony Ramos Iron Man suit up scene? The theater erupted for that.
Oh my god. You know what I do? What all these movies have in common is Optimus gets his ass kicked every single time. And he always comes out like a badass, like, what's up, Sam? We're going to take out the Decepticons. And it's like the first fight. He just gets absolutely bodied and he's half dead. Sam, save yourself. It's just, this is the leader?
Borderline unwatchable. That's how I feel about the most recent one. And the human characters, I don't remember any of their names. They were so bland and uninteresting. But in the main plot, everything from the moment like the main villain walks out and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to," I forget. Like I'm literally forgetting the movie. But there's like a opening villain monologue, and I was like, here we go. Sure enough, it was a disaster.
All right, I got one final like little thing here.
Okay.
How might Rotten Tomatoes be utilized for the good? Is it Rotten Tomatoes that needs to change, or is it maybe how we utilize it as a tool?
I think that it's a societal thing, specifically because I do think it's a useful tool. It's people putting their early reviews out there, and you've got the audience score that comes into play later.
Mhm.
But I almost wish that people would. It's tough to say. Not like learn what Rotten Tomatoes truly is, but just put a little bit less of an emphasis on it online so much, because people, like I said, it's do or die with Rotten Tomatoes. And people will be so excited for a movie, but it'll have a 50% Rotten Tomatoes to be like, man, I've seen comments go, man, I really wanted to like this movie. And again, you haven't seen the movie yet. Maybe like within Rotten Tomatoes that they could put more of an emphasis on like the aggregator part of it. But even then, I don't know. What do you think?
I think at this point we're too late because studios are so married to Rotten Tomatoes, and oftentimes within the first couple weeks of a movie's release, they will show that tomato meter if it's a fresh, of course. Otherwise, they'll ignore it. But it seems like there's always that's like the thing to achieve for them. Barbie's at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes. Oppenheimer's at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. People are loving this film, and that just kind of breeds the culture even more to get on there right away or wait for those initial tweets to come out or those articles to come out to say two people love this movie, it's at 100%, so everybody else better stay in line, otherwise these fandoms are going to come after them. Otherwise you might get canceled if you say something wrong within a certain group of individuals. I personally like IMDb better for movie reviews. It's a lot more subtle. You can leave a 1 through 10, and then it gives you a 1 through 10 score, even with points. It's a 1.7 or
Yeah.
whatever. Those are more valuable to me because you can even sort the comments based on the stars they give. I usually look for something in the 4 to 6 range, a little bit more rational. Not many movies are a 1 or a 10. So when I see a 1 star, that's kind of already discredited. Same with the 10.
Mhm.
That to me is where we would hope Rotten Tomatoes could somehow get. But it's an easy thing to look at and say, okay, a fresh or a rotten. It's a binary thing, right? A 0 or a 1 and nothing in between, which is where things usually are.
Yeah, because the way it's set up right now, it's almost like a pass-fail type thing. It's either
It
rotten or
is. It's
fresh. Yeah,
pass fail.
and so there needs to be some distinction there, like you're saying. I like that. Go to. I don't know if they can't abandon the
Stale?
rotten or fresh thing.
Can stale be a thing? Ripe? Can
Maybe.
tomatoes be ripe?
Yeah, like different distinctions within instead of just rotten or fresh. Yeah, like vine
Off the-
ripe.
off the vine. I don't even know what that means, but we're going with it.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
I also think that I said it earlier. I stand by it. I think there needs to be a threshold before that number is even released, because I think that does help breed a bit more honesty in the conversation. Maybe even hiding when you go to that video for other critics. Maybe that score is hidden and the number of critics that have even submitted. And we hold on to that thing for like a week or two after the movie's released before that score comes out. Now, they'll never do that because, again, Rotten Tomatoes and the theaters or the studios, they're very much in sync. They have to appease each other. They rely on each other. But I think that would be a lot more valuable if I didn't know what Joe Schmo over here is giving this film, or this guy over there, or the whole pool of critics. If I could just go in, give my submission, wait 48 hours or a week, and then it's all there.
No, yeah, like I almost wish that we could resort back to the bliss of childhood. Like when we were like 10 years old, no one cared about what a movie review was. Like no one cared about an early score or what someone on the internet said about a movie. And I kind of miss those days. I wish that I'm not saying eradicate what we do, but like I wish that they could hold it back until the movie comes out. I know that's not the model that's sustainable right now, because word of mouth is huge. But I just wish that maybe people could get back to forming their own opinions and not being afraid to, be on an island if they don't like something, and just be honest online.
Yeah. Let's do, on that note, If you guys have any questions for Chris or myself, if you have any thoughts on Rotten Tomatoes, how it could be improved, why it's a raging dumpster fire in the current state, I'm a critic on there, so obviously something is amiss. Let me know. Leave a super chat. I have a few to go through, so let's just take a look at what we have. Do you have any final notes before I go into this, Chris, or do you think you're pretty much bowed up?
I think I'm ready to go. Let's
see what we got. So Logan Wolf shot out of a cannon with a $22 super chat. I'm late finally watching Poor Things. It's a work of effing art. Catch you next time, Adam. Did you see Poor Things, Chris?
I made it 40 minutes in, and it just wasn't for me.
You didn't care for that.
It was too crude. I understand what they were going for, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. So I couldn't finish it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Chris. We'll,
oh man.
No, I loved it, but I even in my review said this is not going to be a movie for everyone.
No, yeah.
It's very much kind of an art piece in a way. It's experimental in a way. It's weird as shit, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I get it. I get the maybe not so much. Daniel Fa. Oh, thank you, Logan, by the way. If I didn't say thank you. Daniel Fa gifted. Wait, what did you do? He became a member for 2 months on YouTube Join. There's a join button. You can become a member, and there's, I think, perks. I'm not sure at this point. Or you can become a Patreon at Adam Does Movies. MegaCon Buddies United, like Godzilla and Kong. Isn't that nice?
Did
you like Godzilla v. Kong?
Not a fan. The only Godzilla movie I've ever liked in my entire life is Godzilla -1. Yeah, which is just ironic. But no, I couldn't stand the recent Godzilla.
I don't care for that either. I thought I liked Kong Skull Island. I thought Kong Skull Island was great.
Solid.
Yeah. And have you seen the Peter Jackson Kong?
That's on my list. People have told me it's incredible. So
I don't know if I'd say incredible, but it's a great. I like it quite a bit. Yeah. You've seen the Lord of the Rings movies, right?
I have, yes.
All right, Peter Jackson.
Yes.
Let's see. Daniel Foss back for $2. Thank you, Daniel. Adam, I'd rate you 100 out of 100. Best hot takes. That's amazing, Daniel. Thank you. The thing is, I don't really have a hot take. I just have, opinions that are factual. Troy the Cream McClure. What?
What a username.
I think he changed his username. It was Troy McClure before. He added the cream in there for some reason. $5 super chat. Mario thumbnail or profile icon for some reason. Doesn't really go with the name, but that's fair. Oppenheimer, okay, cool. Barbarian was decent. But like most movies since the 90s, it needed more thrusting.
There you have it.
Well, I can't beat that. Well said. The Blind Mask for $5. Thank you. The Blind Mask with an eye patch. His profile icon. What is that?
I have no idea. What is that? Like Snake Plissken eye patch? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a Snake. I'm impressed you know that reference.
Yeah. I had to show that I still know movies before my time.
There you go. Way of Water drove me crazy how highly rated that movie was. I wasn't excited to begin with, but seeing the reviews convinced me to give it a chance. Yes, Blind Mask 1,000 times. Yes. Did you see Way of the Water, Avatar 2?
I did, and I saw it in like Dolby 3D early screening. They tried to, really get us all hyped up. And I'm just not an Avatar guy, and I know that people come for my head for that, but a lot of people also agree with me. You either kind of love or hate it, and I'm just like, visuals out of this world. We all understand that,
right?
But I just feel no connection to the characters when I watch it. I thought Way of Water was a pretty much a rehash of the first movie. They brought back the Stephen Lang, is that his name? The actor, that villain, and it was like his DNA, and I was like
a dumbass.
And then they were trying to extract the mineral or whatever from the whale, and I was like, that's what they were trying to do with the trees in the first movie, and I was just like, it was ridiculous.
I just love that they spend an entire first film getting to know the culture of the Na'vi, learning the ways, really getting in with the tribe. And then within 20 minutes of this film, he's like, yeah, we're fucking leaving. We're going to these guys can just get napalmed to death. I don't really care. We're going to do a little ceremony and we're out of here. The logic was so ridiculous. And the fact that Neytiri was like, yep, cool, let's do that. Let me abandon my family and the tree and everything. It was just, I hated that movie.
And we're getting a third one with fire, and then I think one with earth, and then it's just a Last Airbender.
It's just which is so funny because it's Avatar.
Mm.
It can't be coincidental, right? There has to be some part of his subconscious that has watched the last Airbender series, and he's like, all right, what do I do for the next Avatar movie? Earth, water, fire. Yeah, that's what I'll do. That'll be a unique thing.
Years from now, it will release that James Cameron, that was like his master plan or something in some memoir he releases. Who knows? But
Well, and you know, he did like a trademark of Avatar for the theater release. So when the M. Night Shyamalan, The Last Airbender came out, they couldn't say Avatar in there, which is just fantastic.
which I remember that, and that makes me. I know you're a big Avatar: The Last Airbender guy.
Not the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
No,
but the
yeah,
show.
no. I watched that original animated show like on Nickelodeon in the years it came out because it was one of the shows for me when I was a young lad back in the day. Haven't watched it since it ended, so it's been years and years for me.
I assume you liked it.
I enjoyed it back then, but I barely remember it now. It's been like I need to rewatch it. It's been since 2008, I guess, when it ended, when I last saw an episode. But they're making like an animated movie. Is that correct? Like an animated movie with the characters in the future. I read something about that recently. That's unrelated to like the live action stuff.
I think they have a couple things in the works. There is going to be, I don't know if it was a movie or a show, but yeah, there's going to be something with Aang and Katara and Sokka when they're in their 20s. They're more, grown up, and because there's The Last Airbender, there's Korra, which came out long in the future, and you get flashbacks of Aang and some of the crew when they're adults. So this is going to be a new take when they're, in their late teens, early 20s.
Okay.
I am excited for it. As long as we got the original showrunner on there and the writers and stuff, I think that's going to be great. I'm excited. I am watching the live action show. Have you checked that out at all?
I haven't, just because I feel like I would want to rewatch that original beforehand to get like the, a new experience with that. But I've seen outrage on social media. It's kind of it's very divisive, like most reboots or whatever the hell you want to remakes are. I've seen people crapping on every aspect of it. I've seen people saying it's a fun time. So
yeah, that part is a little, it's frustrating. I get it. I totally get the outrage. I'm not a fan of live action remakes of old properties, especially ones that are really good. Like the whole standard that Disney set when they started redoing shot for shot Little Mermaid, Lion King, every one of them under the sun has basically a live action remake or is going to get one. Lilo and Stitch. Now they're even going to do freaking Moana, which isn't an old movie at all. It's like, what's the end game, Disney? What are you trying to tell with this version of the story? Because it's basically the same carbon copy, but worse every time. I was definitely not thrilled with the news that Avatar was going to get a TV series in the same vein as the original, because it's the best animated show for me, hands down. I have been watching it, and I was pleasantly surprised with the execution. I like that it isn't straight up just the same show again. Obviously, the plot points are the same characters, but they're telling like different perspectives. They're going into different things that the show did. And so from that aspect, I thought, okay, this is actually not bad. They clearly care and they put some time and effort into this, and I appreciate that. But then to go online and see people just ripping it to pieces, just thoroughly, it's a little bit of a bummer because, again, part of me kind of relates, and I've definitely done that myself with things I don't like. And another part of me thinks, how much of this is actually genuine and how much of this is just people, peacocking online for some likes?
No, yeah, I think that's, again, ties back into the whole social media conversation.
Mm-hmm.
People will inflate these negative reactions just because it's not exactly what they grew up with. And that recently happened with the Percy Jackson series. Like, it was revisionist history. People were saying those movies were amazing. No one really ever said that when they originally came out. And then the series comes out. They didn't even
finish them because they sucked.
Exactly. Sea of Monsters is unwatchable.
When they played Follow, no, was it Follow?
It was Fall Out Boy.
Let him up.
It's like, what the hell? I've quoted that before in a live stream recently. I was like, that is just, it's laughable. And then I didn't want to get into that trash. But the live action, or not live action, yeah, live action. The series I
The
actually
Disney
enjoyed.
Plus thing, yeah.
I enjoyed that one a lot more than the movies, but people were like, the movies were so, on TikTok specifically, bashing anyone who liked the show, which is a more faithful adaptation. And people are like, oh my God, I can't stand this. And it's just like, no one ever wins.
No,
And
no.
to your point earlier, the How to Train Your Dragon live action remake is a terrible idea in my opinion.
Yes.
Terrible idea.
And they got the idea from Disney, of course.
Correct.
They wouldn't have done this unless they saw how well it was working for them for the most part.
Yeah, like I genuinely, this past month, binged the trilogy. It's one that I just missed for whatever reason.
Fantastic.
Loved it.
Yeah.
And I sat there with me and my girlfriend. The third film ended. We were both tearing up. It was beautiful.
Mhm.
And I was like, they're doing a live action remake. There's no way in hell they can convey the emotion through an animated Toothless. And it's the same issue with The Lion King. And I don't think it's going to work. It's desperate, cash grabby crap.
Yep. I mean, I'm 100% with you. The Lion King was such an insulting film in many ways, and mainly because they did this National Geographic approach where it was all just 4K visual with none of the substance behind it. And of course, now we're getting a prequel, which...
Yeah, I mean, I saw that Lion King movie in theaters, and I was excited because Lion King is my childhood. It's a lot of people's.
Of course.
And then the aspect ratio was a bit off on the screen. Like there was a black bar coming down. I didn't enjoy my time at all. And then on the way home from the movie, someone ran into the back of my car at a light. So that's what I remember about that. I got rear-ended on the way home from the movie.
You went from watching a literal ball of shit get rolled down a hill by an ant to getting the shit kicked out of your car.
That is correct.
Awesome. What we had, I think there was one or two more here at the end. Liam, I don't know how to say that. Binaras, $7.99 super chat, nailed the name. Would love to hear you both talk smack about David Zaslav and Warner Brothers. Thank you, Liam. I don't have smack talk to say about the guy. He's the executive, the main head honcho at Warner Brothers right now. I imagine he's the one that's responsible for pulling the string or cutting a couple movies, right? Is that what happened?
I think Coyote versus Acme or whatever, and that Batgirl movie.
Batgirl,
right? Yeah. I think that's him.
Do you have smack talk to say about him? Do you hate
I think
him?
it's disgraceful, some of the decisions he's made. But that I don't have much to say. I think that Warner Bros has been horribly run lately. That's what I'll say. I don't know how he still
lately. I would say Warner Brothers has been horribly run since 300, The Rise of an Empire, Sin City 2, and then basically everything after that's been trash.
The entire run of the DCEU.
The DCEU
historically
is a
awful
nightmare. I don't know how in God's green earth you fuck up a Harry Potter franchise. Everybody up top should feel nothing but shame and embarrassment, including J.K. Rowling, for thinking, hey, let's take Fantastic Beasts and make that a thing. That's going to be the ticket. They aren't even finishing that property. That is so bad. And now they're going to do a TV series, which, again, kind of to the How to Train Your Dragon and everything else. Those movies are so good. Those Harry Potter movies are lightning in a freaking bottle. It's the same reason they haven't outright rebooted Back to the Future. It's the same reason they haven't outright rebooted Star Wars. They just keep doing these pretend new movies. I don't know what they're thinking here, and I'm bummed out that it's happening. As for David Zaslav, I don't know how long he's been steering this shit show of a ship, but I don't like anything he's doing. I don't know him personally, so I'm not going to say anything bad about the guy. I don't know. I imagine it's pretty cutthroat in business world where I don't live. I don't agree with shelving movies or canceling movies. And these people worked hard on this film. Even if it sucks, I think it should probably see the light of day. But I don't make those decisions. And that's probably for the best, because I would probably make some pretty poor ones.
Oh, man.
Yeah, David Zaslav.
If Gunn fails with DC, I don't know what they're going to do. But hopefully that all works out. I
mean, did David Zaslav hire James Gunn?
That I don't know. There might be another head of DC. I actually don't know how it all works. But the name Walter Hamada, I don't know. I think he's gone, but he used to be in charge of DC at Warner Bros. Maybe something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because maybe Liam did one thing right. We'll see. Mr. Flickster for $5. Thank you, Mr. Flickster. Fun fact, James Cameron brought in indigenous people to see Avatar 1. It was their first movie. He expected to amaze them. They didn't like it.
Interesting.
I don't know if this is a true fact, but that's pretty wild if that's the case. Wow. My grandpa probably wouldn't like it either if I took him to a over 3-hour movie with a bunch of CG blue people running around. He'd be like, what the hell is this? Can't I go back to Dunkirk again? I like Dunkirk. Yikes. If you guys have any more super chats, throw them in now or forever hold your peace. Chris, what do you have going on in the channel? Where can people find you one more time?
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, at Filmstocked across the board. I do movie reviews, rankings, tier list. I also talk a lot of Stranger Things over there, so if you're a fan of that show, I cover it quite frequently. But that's what I got going on my channel. I'm excited to get into March. We've got a lot of big stuff coming out. I am ready for that Ghostbusters movie because I liked Afterlife, and I had a lot of fun with it, so I'm ready for Frozen Empire.
Afterlife. You know,
Not a fan.
I have a buddy, Tony from Hack the Movies. He and I are in agreement that Afterlife is not anything great. Have you tried watching it a second time?
I saw it the once in theaters. I haven't revisited it, so I will be doing so in March. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time, and I think I really like Finn Wolfhard. Obviously, he's in Stranger Things, and McKenna Grace. I thought they did a nice job of sort of bringing in the old near the end, and succeeded where I don't think the Star Wars sequels did it as well. At least they were actually in the movie. And
you liked that Egon was a deadbeat dad and grandpa and kind of a
didn't bother me too much.
Kind of an asshole.
I feel you. You know, it's kind of like what they did with Indy and Dial of Destiny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The one thing that always annoys me on these Afterlife movies is they keep making Stay Puft Marshmallow Man a thing. It doesn't make sense at all in the context of the films. It only made sense in the original because that's what Venkman imagined. You know, that was the one thing he envisioned. But now they just show up like they're cute little gizmo gremlins or something, like they're Grogu from Star Wars. Like, buy us
to sell toys.
Yeah, to sell toys. It just seems so disingenuous. Okay, so we're gonna get you hopefully film stocked to that 100K, and you can get your sweet ass YouTube silver play button, something that I have yet to achieve myself. How does that work? Do you know? Do you get like a notification?
I've heard you get an email and then it might take like a month or two for the button to actually arrive, but you can like tell them what you want. Like, I'm assuming I'm just going to say film stocked, but you can pick like what name you want and then they send it to you. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later, trying to make the final push. It's the final countdown. But yeah, it was good to hop on here, man.
Of course. And you know what? Usually these live streams after the fact get a couple thousand views. So people, he doesn't need that many subscribers. If even a fraction of you go over there, let's get this man to 100,000. Let's make it happen. If any of your family, if any of your friends join this stream today, please subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it. I talk movies every single week, only movies, nothing else. It's a good time. It's a lot of fun. I think we'll leave it there. I don't have anything else like super exciting coming up outside of a Dune 2 review that I will, because I'm a peasant, like some of you, will be seeing it on Thursday. I'll probably have that review up Thursday night, maybe Friday. Either way, I'll have like an out of theater reaction video up, and that'll be good. And I did notice, lastly, in this live chat that I don't look at too often because I only want super chats. It's all I care about in this world. I did see Sean Chandler from Sean Chandler Sucks popping off in the comments, being kind of a troll. Sean, I see you, okay? We all see you. I will get my revenge somehow, some way. Maybe if you weren't a coward, you invite me onto your channel sometime to do a live stream. I've been on Cody's. I haven't been on yours. You've been on mine a couple times. I'm throwing that out there, and I will text you after this like 35 animated GIFs because I'm not happy.
Calling him out like it's Creed 3. Oh man.
That's exactly right. All right, Chris, thank you very much, man. It was great talking to you. Don't be a stranger.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was a blast.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time. Take care.